Hi, I'm Noor Ahmad from Al Mustansiriya University in Baghdad, Iraq, and I'll be reading the pages from 666 to 673 from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Two children sat facing each other, cross-legged on the ground. Snape had removed his coat now. His old smoke looked less peculiar in the half-light. And the ministry can punish you if you do magic outside the school. You get letters. But I have done magic outside the school. We're all right. We haven't got wounds yet. They let you off when you're a kid. You can't help it. But once you're 11, he nodded importantly, and they start training you, then you've got to go careful. There was a little silence. Lily had picked up a fallen twig and twirled it in the air, and Harry knew that she was imagining sparks trailing from it. Then she dropped the twig, leaned it towards the boy, and said, "It is real, isn't it? It's not a joke. Petunia says you're lying to me. Petunia says there isn't a Hogwarts. It is real, isn't it?" "It's real for us," said Snape. "Not for her. But we'll get the letters, you and me." "Really?" whispered Lily. "Definitely," said Snape. And even with his poorly cut hair and his old clothes, he stretched an oddly impressive figure poised in front of her, brimful of confidence in his destiny. "And will it really come by all?" Lily whispered. "Normally," said Snape, "but we're Muggle-born, so someone from the school will have to come and explain to your parents." "Does it make a difference being Muggle-born?" Snape hesitated, his black eyes, eager in the greenish gloom, moved over the pale face, the dark red hair. "No," he said, "it doesn't make any difference." "Good," said Lily, relaxing. It was clear that she had been worrying. "You've got loads of magic," said Snape. "I saw that all the time I was watching you." His voice trailed away. She was not listening, but had stretched out on the leafy ground and was looking up at the confetti of leaves overhead. He watched her as greedily as he had watched her in the playground. "How are things at your house?" Lily asked. A little crease appeared between his eyes. "Fine," he said. "They are not arguing anymore." "Oh, yes, they are arguing," said Snape. He picked up a fistful of leaves and began tearing them apart, apparently unaware of what he was doing. "But it won't be that long and I'll be gone." "Doesn't your dad like magic?" "He doesn't like anything much," said Snape. "Severus," a little smile twisted Snape's mouth when she said his name. "Yeah, tell me about the Dementors again. What do you want to know about them for?" "If I use magic outside school, they wouldn't give you to the Dementors for that. Dementors are for people who do really bad stuff. They guard the wizard's prison, Azkaban. You're not going to end up in Azkaban. You're too..." He turned red again and shredded more leaves. Then a small, rustling voice behind Harry made him turn. Petunia, hiding behind a tree, had lost her footing. "Toonie," said Lily, surprise and welcome in her voice. But Snape had jumped to his feet. "Who is spying now?" he shouted. "What do you want?" Petunia was breathless, alarmed at being caught. Harry could see her struggling for something hurtful to say. "What is that you're wearing anyway?" she said, pointing at Snape's chest. "Your mom's blouse." There was a crack. A branch over Petunia's head had fallen. Lily screamed. The branch cut Petunia on the shoulder, and she staggered backward and burst into tears. "Toonie!" But Petunia was running away. Lily rounded on Snape. "Did you make that happen?" "No." He looked both defiant and scared. "You did. She was backing away from him. "You did. You hurt her." No, I didn't." But the lie did not convince Lily. After one last burning look, she ran from the little thicket off after her sister, and Snape looked miserable and confused. and the scene reformed. Harry looked around. He was on the platform 9 3/4, and Snape stood beside him, slightly hunched, next to a thin, sallow-faced, sore-looking woman who greatly resembled him. Snape was staring at a family of four a short distance away. The two girls stood a little apart from their parents. Lily seemed to be pleading with her sister. Harry moved closer to listen. "I'm sorry, Tony, I'm sorry. Listen." She cut her sister's hand and held tight to it, even though Petunia tried to pull it away. "Maybe once I'm there." "No, listen, Tony. Maybe once I'm there, I'll be able to go to Professor Dumbledore and persuade him to change his mind." "I don't want to go," said Petunia, and she dragged her hand back out of her sister's grasp. "Do you think I want to go to some stupid castle and learn to be Her pale eye roved over the platform, over the cats mellowing in their owners' arms, over the owls fluting and hooting at each other in cages, over the students, some already in their long black robes, loading trunks onto the scarlet steam engine, or else greeting one another with glad cries after the summer apart. "You think I want to be a freak?" Lily's eyes filled with tears as Petunia succeeded in tugging her hand away. "I'm not a freak," said Lily. "That's a horrible thing to say." "That's where you are going," said Petunia with relish. "A special school for freaks. You and that Snape boy. Weirdos. That's what you two are. It's good you are being separated from normal people. It's for our safety." Lily glanced toward her parents, who were looking around the platform with an air of wholehearted enjoyment, drinking in the scene. Then she looked back at her sister, and her voice was low and fierce. "You didn't think it was such a freak's school when you wrote to the headmaster and begged him to take you." Petunia turned scarlet. "Beg? I didn't beg. I saw his reply. It was very kind." "You shouldn't have read," whispered Petunia. "That was my private. How could you?" Lily gave herself away by half glancing towards where Snape stood nearby. Petunia gasped. "That boy found it. You and that boy have been sneaking in my room?" "No, not sneaking." Now Lily was on the defensive. Severus knew the envelope, and he couldn't believe a muggle could have contacted Hogwarts, that's all. "He says there must be wizards working undercover in the postal service who take care of." "Apparently wizards poke their noses in everywhere," said Petunia, now as pale as she had been flushed. "Freaks!" She spit at her sister and flounced off to where her parents stood. The scene dissolved again. Snape was hurrying along the corridor of the Hogwarts Express as it clattered through the countryside. He had already changed into his school robe, had perhaps taken the first opportunity to take off his dreadful muggle clothes. At last he stopped outside a compartment in which a group of rowdy boys were talking. Hunched in a corner, set beside the window, was Lily, her face pressed against the window pane. Snape slid open the compartment door and sat down opposite Lily. She glanced at him and then looked back out of the window. She had been crying. "I don't want to talk to you," she said in a constricted voice. "Why not?" "Tony hates me because we saw the letter from Dumbledore." "So what?" She threw him a look of deep dislike. "So she's my sister. She's only a..." He cut himself quickly. Lily, too busy trying to wipe her eyes without being noticed, did not hear him. "But we're going," he said, unable to suppress the exhilaration in his voice. "This is it. We're off to Hogwarts." She nodded, mopping her eyes, but in spite of herself, she half smiled. "You'd better be in Slytherin," said Snape, encouraging that she had brightened a little. "Slytherin?" One of the boys sharing the compartment, who had shown no interest at all in Lily or Snape until that point, looked around at the ward, and Harry, whose attention had been focused entirely on the two beside the window, saw his father slide back-haired like Snape, but with that indefensible air of having been well cared for, even adored, that Snape so conspicuously lacked. Who wants to be in Slytherin? I think I'd leave, wouldn't you? James asked the boy lounging on the seat opposite him, and with a jolt, Harry realized that it was Sirius. Sirius did not smile. My whole family have been in Slytherin, he said. Blimey, said James, and I thought you seemed all right. Sirius grinned. Maybe I'll break the tradition. Where are you heading if you got the choice? James lifted an invisible sword. Gryffindor, with all the brave at heart, like my dad. Snape made a small disparaging nose. James turned on him. Got a problem with that? No, said Snape, though his slight sinner said otherwise. If you'd rather be Brownie than Briny. Where are you hoping to go, seeing as you're neither? Interjected Sirius. James roared with laughter. Lily sat up rather flushed and looked from James to Sirius in dislike. Come on, Severus, let's find another compartment. Ooh! James and Sirius imitate her lofty voice. James tried to trip Snape as he passed. C.S. Nicholas, a voice called as the compartment door slammed, and the scene dissolved once more. Harry was standing right behind Snape as they faced the candlelight house table, lined with rapt faces. Then Professor McGonagall said, Evans, Lily. He watched his mother walk forward on tumbling legs and sit down upon the rickety tool. Professor McGonagall dropped the soaring hat onto her head, and barely a second after it had touched her dark red hair, the hat carried Gryffindor. Harry heard Snape let out a tiny groan. Lily took off the hat and handed it back to Professor McGonagall. Then hurried toward the cheering Gryffindor, but as she went, she glanced back at Snape, and there was a sad little smile on her face. Harry saw Sirius moving up the bench to make room for her. She took one look at him, seemed to recognize him from the train, folded her arms, and firmly turned her back on him. The roll call continued. Harry watched Lupin, Pettigrew, and his father join Lily and Sirius at the Gryffindor table. At last, when only a dozen students remained to be sorted, Professor McGonagall called Snape. Harry walked with him to the stool, watched him place the hat upon his head. Slytherin, cried the soaring hat, and Severus Snape moved off to the other side of the hall, away from Lily, to where the Slytherins were cheering him, to where Lucius Malfoy, a perfect badge gleaming upon his chest, patted Snape on the back as he sat down beside him. And the scene changed. Lily and Snape were walking across the castle courtyard, evidently arguing. Harry hurried to catch up with them, to listen in. As he reached them, he realized how much taller they both were. A few yards seems to have passed since their sorting. Thought we were supposed to be friends, Snape was saying. Best friends. We are safe, but I don't like some of people you're hanging round with. I'm sorry, but I detest Avery and Mulciber. Mulciber, what do you see in him, Sif? He's creepy. Do you know what he tried to do to Mary MacDonald the other day? Lily had reached a pillar and leaned against it, looking up into the thin, sallow face. That was nothing, said Snape. It was a laugh, that's all. It was dark magic, and if you think it's funny... What about the stuff Potter and his mates get up to? Demanded Snape. His color rose again as he said it, unable, it seems, to hold in his resentment. What's Potter got to do with anything? Said Lily. They sneak out at night. There is something weird about that Lupin. Where does he keep going?